All right, Scott, with that as a backdrop, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Chris.
This is going to be really awesome. Let's dive in a little bit, kind of behind the green curtain, and let the Wicked Smart listeners know how you landed here, so to speak, and then we'll take it wherever we decide to take it. But just how'd you get here, and how and why?
Yeah, so it was all by accident, and I think almost all good products, though, what you see behind me, becomes because of a need, or at least the greater the need, the greater the products. And so I was new to the REI space about 3.5, 4 years ago, and I just had a really big problem. And I found out that everybody else had a problem, which was underqualified leads were coming into my ecosystem. So I decided to solve it the old-fashioned way, which is kind of putting on the work boots, going out into the field and creating my own damn solution.
Yeah, so okay, so let's dive deeper on that. Lead flow is like the topic always, but in particular right now, just I don't know, uncertainty in the market, election coming up, interest rates crazy. Talk a little bit about your experience so far with the in the real estate world. You're in a mastermind group with my son-in-law and partner, and let's just talk a little bit about how that relates to real estate.
Yeah, so I actually got a text last night. Somebody was sending me something like, "Hey, I think consumers are being more aware of like wholesaling and people buying at a discount on the REI side, and kind of that same thing, and with the interest rates." And so he was asking me my opinion on how things were pivoting, and I said, I don't see any of it. I don't see any of this negative mindset that you're texting me. I had to completely shut him down correct immediately because I don't even want it in my life. It doesn't even exist to me. So I don't care whether the interest rate is 12 or 8 or 6. I don't care whether the hedge funds are buying or not. I don't care. There's always going to be a distressed seller, and there's always going to be salespeople who can command a discount in exchange for value, whether that value be service, whether that value be time, whether that value be trust. You can always command a discount in exchange for a value, especially if the value is perceived to be bigger than the discount. It's a great deal for all.
I couldn't agree more. So you get the media screaming about, the market, which if the media is screaming, it should be your first sign that you go the other way anyway. But that's what's polluting people's brain right now. It's a positive for us in that the sellers are scared, but it's
Yep.
as an investor, you should just stay away from the crap media. I think it sounds like you'd agree.
Yeah, I would agree. And even something I saw somebody yesterday talking about how SMS campaigns are delivering like significantly lower. I love that pain in the SMS channel only because it's going to weed out the weak people. The same thing with the changes in the REI space. Like, I want the hobbyist to die
Right.
on the REI space. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, let's get out of this space. Let's leave it to the guys who are ruthless assassins in their craft, allowing them to dominate a little bit more fluidly in the marketplace and provide a solution. So I think headwind is good for those who are strong enough who can punch through it.
Yeah, we think alike. I remember every time the market changes, my wife will say, I've been at this 32 years. She'll say, how do you think it's going to affect you? I said, it's great. It's going to weed all the crap out. It's just perfect. Let's weed the gardens.
Couldn't
Um,
agree
let's
more, Chris.
let's talk a little bit about what you guys do for the lead gen then, as sort of a service, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Who are you talking to? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So our main avatar is really established REI investors, wholesalers, whoever it is on that side. Really not the entry level guys and gals, just because our operations big enough to facilitate sales teams. And so our primary core service is an enterprise level call center function, lead generation, a hyper qualified, highly motivated lead source. I always tell people up front, I'm less leads, longer conversations. These guys and gals you see here on the average converted lead, it's like a 14 to 17-minute call. And so, like, that's never existed in this space before where somebody's spending 15 minutes qualifying, building rapport, assessing needs before it's sent to my customers. And so, for us, we're just a really, really high end, almost like a Rolls Royce, if you will, cold call marketing channel, strategic partner for a lot of the big players here in the REI space so far.
Well, okay, so you mentioned the back behind you. I want to just say what you and I were talking about offline. This is not a background. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you got to go to YouTube and check out his assembly room there. It is a massive plant. All right, so all these guys behind you, so they're generating the leads. Let's go further.
Yeah.
Just bring me through the process. They're generating leads, and I'm your client. Then what happens?
Yeah, so if you're my client, the best thing for you to do is to kind of just sit in the passenger seat, allow me to handle the entire experience up until hyper motivated leads. So for a lot of my affiliates, we're assisting them on the data targeting side. We're assisting them on the everything that comes from data targeting to skip tracing. And then we do all the dialer management, all the phone number swapping, all the carrier registrations. I do everything, but that's just to get started. And then comes the true expertise, which is these guys, I like to say, is my qualifiers here are better than 90% of this industry's closers. And so they are just put through such a rigorous sales regimen that they hit the phones, and it's almost like, hey, I'm hiring closers to do my qualifying. So that way, by the time that lead gets to my closers, I am having them talk to people who can actually be closed instead of them being glorified qualifiers. And all I mean by that is a lot of cold call cycles are like, hey, you got to hire a cold caller and then a leads manager. And then by the time the closer gets to it, he's still sifting through so much crap versus in my pipeline, it goes directly from us to the closer. Let's go. It's time to pitch.
That's awesome. So who are you guys cold calling then?
In regards to
You
single
do it
family
by
or
geographics? Like how do you pick your list?
so our primary campaign here is single family. I also do land and I do some commercial. The commercial is for a certain very select group. Land is not as big as our single family campaign, or four doors and less is what I consider single family as well. It really depends, man. I think our X factor is that we do about 1.3, 1.4 million dials a week out of here.
Wow.
And so, unlike the average business who's like, okay, let me just try the normal motivators, pre foreclosure, pre probate, vacant, absentee out of state,
Yeah.
kind of that. I have the dialer tell me what lists are performing best. And so I have this really unique perspective that I can look into any market or any region and say, okay, these lists are performing the best. Let's now overlay that with what we would have done from a research analysis side. What deals have been converting to cash buyers, and what are those cohorts? So I never could afford a data scientist or a robust data team until I kind of built this operation out. And now that I have it, we're really data driven first, but also we leverage a dialer, which nobody has, and we just have really enterprise level analytics, if you will.
Yeah, you have like almost 200 people in there, right? Doing this?
Yeah, we have north of 200 people. I have 25 people in a new classroom. We have a full-fledged classroom, chairs. We just had 25 people start yesterday. So that puts us like close to 215.
Wow.
But
And
yeah,
just so the Wicked Smart listeners know, especially if you're not on YouTube yet, you're like, I guess I'd call it like a microcosm of the lead world because you have so many dials going out. So you must have a really good pulse geographically on what's going on, no?
yeah, I do. And so a lot of times people just try to pull me over to the side. Hey, man, dude, what market's the hottest in the
Yeah.
nation? And I can tell you like what's the hottest in the Northeast, what's the hottest Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, which ones? Because a lot of times the hottest isn't just a matter of, hey, who's getting the biggest spread? It's
Yeah.
what's the amount of effort that I can insert and get the most amount of value from that effort. And so low effort, high return, there's a lot of really good soft pockets out there that there are monsters. And then I'm also in some of the major player like San Diego, LA, Seattle. Those are like really top tier markets where you have to have a marketing budget and sales acumen and a a great CRM to really be able to monetize those leads. So I'm in every major market in the 48 states.
So because our deals, Scott, is so lucrative, like with our 3 paydays,
Yes, sir.
I usually tell people, look, within 50 miles of you, you have enough deals to accomplish most of people's goals. Are there any pockets right now that you'd top of mind that you'd say, yeah, this pocket is soft enough to attack? Like, just give me some examples if you could.
Yeah, I'll give you some really great examples. So I love the Northeast. So everything in the Northeast, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, outside of Boston, those are really great markets. Most of those are attorney states, so you got to be able to navigate that as well too. But those are the markets that not a single player in Arizona, those monster virtual guys are calling into the Northeast. And so that's the thing too. It's like, okay, well, where can I go into less competitive wise? Again, loving Connecticut is one of my top in the Northeast. In the Mid Atlantic, everybody loves Carolinas. I'm a big fan of Carolinas, North Carolina as well too. South Carolina is very unique because they have some data privacy laws that have suppress a lot of the competition out of there. I love Georgia, but not Atlanta, even though the biggest guy in Atlanta is my client. I love Southwest Georgia and then the Warner Robins area of Georgia. And then the more you go into the Midwest, everybody knows the St. Louis's, the Kansas City's okay. I like St. Louis a little bit better or Missouri better than Kansas. And then going out to the West Coast, you got to be prepared, man. There's really no soft pockets left anywhere in the state of California. I don't care how you slice it up. Your cost per deal out there is 3x what it is on the East Coast, but your revenue per deal is significantly higher out there too. And so you just have to have enough capital to weather the cash conversion cycle.
Yeah, very interesting. Because we were in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, Little New Hampshire, and then a couple years ago, my wife said, "Why you just wasn't enough leads? So why don't you go to Connecticut?" Now, like 70% of our deals are in Connecticut. So
Yep.
interesting, you would say
Yep.
that. Scott, can we talk a little bit, just so I don't forget, about your program? We've got a link for them. I'll give them the link just so I don't forget. It's simply smartrealestatecoach.com Lamassu, LAMASSU. Talk a little bit about what they're going to see there, just so and again, we'll put it in the show notes, but I wanted you to just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think the first thing is they're going to get a really candid conversation with me or one of my top intake people about what lead flow expectations should be in that market based on whatever package they elect to kind of float with us. And that's important. And I always tell people, I want your money for a long time, not the wrong time. And so like you have to be capable and have a sales team that justifies these types of dollars, number one, but have the infrastructure to handle these quality and flow of leads. And so I think the first thing is, hey, listen, it's almost like being able to go to one of the best doctors out there and just say, hey, man, let's just come in. We're going to talk. We're going to find out if we're a good fit for you. If we are, then we can talk about the next step. But once we analyze your market and I kind of give you some feedback, a lot of times I start assessing people's sales operations like, hey, why don't you go ahead and add a nurture campaign to your CRM first? Like, here's some drip sequencing that I would suggest. Let's make sure you have the infrastructure to handle this because you don't want to crash a Rolls Royce into the wall. If you're going to crash into the wall and you're still in that journey in your business, do it with a Toyota. Go hire a normal VA. But once you're ready to say, hey, I want the experts to do it, that's what I provide for them, which is going to be consistency unlike they've ever had in this marketing channel. And more importantly, quality of leads unlike they've never had in this marketing channel.
That's awesome. So tell me what you do. I'm mesmerized by your the operation behind you. So what's your day like, you?
As the CEO, so I literally got up at 3:45 this morning. So
Both.
me, I'm dialed in. And sometimes I still can't figure out. This morning, I was still a little late. I was like, man, how did I get up so early and still not have enough time to do everything that I wanted to do before the business side of my life started? But no, so just rock and rolling here. We have a morning meeting, 7:30 a.m. our time. I'm Central Standard. We have that. We're on the phones. I always say we're not picking up the phones at 8. We're on the phones at 8. So we're on the phones at 8. And then we are just grinding out, cutting on various markets, this client and this client all throughout the day, hitting dial targets, lead targets. Every time you see them scream or yell in the background or you see somebody clap, it means that we generated our highest tier lead that they get a commission for, which is under 70% of ARV. So the seller starting asking price is under 70% of ARV. And so our whole goal throughout the day is how do we get somebody with a gorgeous timeline, gorgeous motivation, gorgeous price, hyper qualified, post it to that affiliate CRM so that way they can do their job, which is close.
So I did see you clapping a few times. I was assuming something was going on in the background. These guys have to just see the video. So go over to you. That's awesome.
Thank you, brother.
That's awesome that you're in it. You're in it to win it there. Scott, what am I not asking you that the Wicked Smart listeners should know? I don't want to leave any nuggets on the table that you might want to share here.
I can just give you my 2 cents from an outsider's perspective coming into your industry. Because again, I've only been in your space for 3 years. I made all my money selling leads to attorneys, which was ironically still kind of a similar cohort, talking to people who were going through a distressed life situation, creating value in the conversation, creating rapport, converting them, and then selling them over to people for them to monetize it with their expertise. One of the things that really hit me right out of the gates is a lot of the investors, they want to cut out wholesalers or they want to start their own sales team, but they don't necessarily have the capacity or knowledge base to do it themselves. And so what I think that this industry lacks the most, where there's a big gap to be filled, is truly sales skills and the diligence to actually acquire them, reading the books, mapping out your script, getting your objections and rebuttals. I have a soccer ball. We have like 4 or 5 of them floating around on our soccer balls here. Every diamond of it has a different objection. And so literally they can just be walking down the hallway, throw it to them. They have to grab it, read the objection, know the rebuttal, or they stand in a circle and they toss it around. And so I would just say that if somebody took the next 12 months of their life while they're still doing their business every night, going through their sales books, reading the various different officials that are there in our industry for that, like you can see here, everyone has a different, maybe in a couple of months I'd sell. I don't know what it's worth. You tell me. How'd you get my number? Why is your phone number from a different area code? Like all this stuff that they're screaming and yelling back here. So anyways, I don't know. I just think that people should invest more in the sales skills and treat it as a sales first business and an investment business second, because the sales will drive the investment arm. You can be great at running comps and, cap rates and know everything, but if you ain't generating your deals, then what is there?
I love it. I love it. You guys got to go to smartrealestatecoach.com/Lamassu, LAMASSU. Scott, this was really cool. I can see you coming to one of our Wicked Smart sit downs and or one of our events. So I'll get you and Zach and team to connect again. That'd be really super cool.
It'd be an honor. I'm here in Colombia, South America. I fly up to the States to kind of participate, just get our brand awareness out there, and help people. If I only accomplish one thing in this industry, that is to change what this industry calls a lead. I think what this industry calls a lead currently, I call a data record. What this industry calls an opportunity is what I call a lead. So if I can single-handedly, the best of my ability, raise the bar of what REI investors and wholesalers accept as a lead, I will accomplish what I wanted to do and make some money on the way.
But you're raising the quality, and quality control is not a good word for real estate, but you're raising the quality of all this too in a big way, I think.
Thank you, sir.
Night and day. Awesome. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your candidness. Appreciate your energy. And you guys,
Thank you, brother.
jump over to YouTube. You gotta watch Scott live in action with his company behind him. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you being on.
Talk to you, brother.